024224096. Today, I will be presenting on the exploitation of migrant workers in Malaysia. It is an issue that is not only sensitive at a local level but also one that draws global attention. Malaysia depends heavily on migrant workers, with millions employed in sectors such as construction, manufacturing, plantation, and domestic work. These workers contribute significantly to our economy, yet many face serious challenges, including low wages, unsafe working conditions, excessive working hours, and even practices that amount to forced labor. This topic is highly relevant because it reflects how we treat the people who have built and sustained our country. At the same time, it affects Malaysia's international reputation as a global organization, and foreign governments continue to scrutinize our labor practices. By understanding this issue, we can explore not only the problems but also the reform needed to protect human rights while balancing economic growth. With that overview, I will now pass the presentation to my friend who will continue by explaining the specific issues faced by migrant workers in more detail.
Hello everyone, my name is Nur Nadira. Today I will be presenting on the positive impacts of real case reported by AP News about Bangladesh migrant workers in Malaysia. Firstly, let us look at the positive impacts on employers. One of the most important outcomes is greater awareness of their rights. Because of this case, migrant workers are now more conscious of the protection provided under the Employment Act. For example, wages must be paid on time. Overtime should be compensated at premium rates, and the maximum working hours per week should not exceed 45 hours. This awareness empowers workers to demand fair treatment and report violations in the future. Secondly, this case shows that workers can still receive protection and compensation even when their direct employer fails. Japanese companies such as Sony, Panasonic, and Daikin stepped in to provide partial financial compensation. Although it did not cover the entire amount owed, it gave workers some relief and proved that larger organizations in the supply chain can take responsibility. This aligns with the goal of a wage system which is not only to pay fairly, but also to attract and retain employees through trust and fairness. Thirdly, the exposure of abusive practices such as 24-hour shifts without rest is pushing for better future working conditions. Public attention and pressure from governments and NGOs make it more difficult for companies to ignore labor laws. As a result, workers may benefit from fairer shift schedules, proper rest days, and reduced excessive overtime in the long run. This directly links to the section in Chapter 5 about the problems caused by excessive overtime, such as poor morale and low productivity. Now, let us move on the positive impacts for organizations. One clear benefit is improved reputation and corporate responsibility. Companies that took corrective action gain credibility for protecting workers and demonstrating ethical labor practices. This is very important in today's global market, where brand image and supply chain responsibility influence customer trust and investor confidence. Secondly, the case creates strong pressure for better compliance with labor laws. Employers now understand that failing to follow the Employment Act on payment systems, deductions, and working hours can result in legal penalties and reputational damage. By strengthening payroll systems, performance audit, and ensuring timely payments, organizations can avoid fines and improve efficiency. Finally, when organizations adopt fair wage systems and regulate working hours, they can actually achieve higher productivity and motivation. Employees who are paid fairly and not overworked are more motivated, more loyal, and more effective. This reflects on of the main goals of the wage system stage in Chapter 5, which is to motivate employees to perform effectively. In conclusion, although the AP News article highlights a very serious labor violations, this case has generated positive outcomes for both employers and organizations. Workers become more aware of their rights, receive better compensation, and gain hope for better conditions in the future. At the same time, organizations strengthen their compliance, improvement their reputation, and enhance long-term productivity. Most importantly, this case shows us how the principles we learned in Chapter 5 on payment system and working hours are not just theory but are highly relevant to real-world labor issues. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shadina binti Osman. My student number is 2024 439538, and now I will explain the HRM solution by looking at both the employees and the organization or company. So for the first one, fair compensations and compliance. For employees, this means timely wages and stronger protection of their rights. For the organization, it's build trust, avoid legal penalties, and strengthen corporate reputations. So moving on to the second point, employees' relation and support. Employees will benefit from grievance mechanism, counseling, and embassy or NGO support. For the company, this improves worker satisfaction, reduce turnover, and create a more positive image. So finally, ethical recruitment and workforce planning. Employees will gain from transparent contracts, fair hiring practice, and better job security. At the same time, the organization secure a stable workforce, ethical supply chain practice, and compliance with international HR standards. So in conclusion, this HRM solution provides benefit on both sides. Employees gain fairness and protection, while organizations strengthen their workforce and reputation. This balance is essential for sustainable HR management. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nur Nabila. I will discuss the negative impact of unethical human resource practice on employee and organization using the case of migrant workers in Malaysia. This case highlights the negative impact of poor HR practice on both employee and organization. For employee, many face high recruitment fees, which put them in debt before they even start working. Their passports are often confiscated, restricting their freedom and making them dependent on the employer. They are also in their unsafe working condition and long hours, and some lost their income entirely when factory closed unexpectedly. For organization, this issue causes reputational damage because client and the public disapprove of unethical labor practice. Company also face legal and financial penalties from unpaid wage, supply chains disruption when factory shut down, and even political or diplomatic pressure from government. Overall, this case shows why ethical human resource management is crucial, not only to protect employees, but also to maintain a sustained and responsibility for business.
The potential consequences of not addressing the exploitations of migrant workers in Malaysia are serious and far-reaching. For employees, unpaid wages lead to financial hardship and poverty, leaving workers unable to support their families back home. This can create serious mental and physical health issues and traps them in an endless cycle of exploitation. Over time, workers lose trust in their employers and in the system meant to protect them. For organizations, failure to pay workers fairly can result in legal penalties under Malaysian labour laws. Beyond that, the company's reputation can be badly damaged in the media and among international clients. This often leads to strikes, high turnover, and low morale among employees, while also making it harder to attract new talent. At a broader level, society and industry also suffer. International backlash and threat risks may emerge, with Malaysia being highlighted for human rights violations. This can reduce foreign investment and harm the country's global image. In the worst-case scenario, large groups of unpaid workers could spark social unrest, threatening national stability. In short, Ignoring this issue does not just harm workers, it creates long-term risk for companies, industries, and the nation as a whole.
Okay, now we go to the end of our presentation. In conclusion, human resource management play a critical role for both employee and organization. When HR practices are positive, they improve employee certificates, productivity, and company reputation. On the other hand, negative practice like unsafe working conditions, exploitative recruitment, and work-hard wage not only harm employees but also create legal, operational, and reputational problem for organization. This show why implementing fair recruitment, safe workplace, and compliance with labor laws is necessary to protect employee and ensure the organization operates sustainability and responsibly.